to roll into the top line results of the annual franchise marketing report. And for those of you who have never been here or have never seen our annual franchise marketing report, we started this survey about 10 years ago with the intent to understand what brands were doing from a marketing perspective over time. And then as we've evolved the conference into more of a customer experience event, we've added some more questions about how brands engage with their customers and what they're doing with customer experience. And now we've started tracking what's going on with how brands are engaging with AI. So I've got a couple things. I had some aha moments yesterday afternoon. After our speakers, I'm going to take you through some top line things, and then we're going to stop kind of in the middle and talk a little bit about local marketing and customer experience. So let's go ahead and get started. And we always want to start by understanding who our respondents are. So we kind of have a cross section of industry service segments. And then more so, we get in a little bit more on what industry segment that our respondents are from. So the first thing that was, this was an aha moment for me when I was looking at the results, that we have over 70%, actually just under 80% of respondents are saying that their leads are up or the same as last year, which I thought was really encouraging when you listen to some of the doom and gloom in the news. And to see this, I think it's really great. So I think our industry is responding well to what's going on in the world. And then we talked about how people are spending their money. So I think that, it's no surprise that digital is leading how marketers are appropriating their budget and what's going on. And then, but on the digital marketing spend, I think it's interesting that pay-per-click is at the top, and this has happened for like 2 years. And I think it's kind of cyclical with digital. It kind of ebbs and flows. Things that are working are different, and that kind of makes sense given how much change is going on in the digital world right now. But it's pay-per-click and social media advertising. So this is the slide I want to start talking about, because we've been tracking over time how many brands require or recommend that their franchisees spend at the local level. That number has grown to 85% of the respondents require or recommend a local spend. But in the orange bars, you will see that 48% of those people leave it to their franchisees to monitor and check themselves. So I think the conversation or the thought processes that I'd like you to enter into are, especially when you think about what Mitch Cohen said yesterday in the general session panel, that franchisees are left to monitor themselves on their local marketing spend, and we know how critical it is to engage ourselves at the local level. And so, is that really the best way to do a local marketing program? And then if you have a local marketing program, how are you rolling it out to your franchisees? Are you giving them a manual? Do they have sheets of paper? Do you have a local component to all of your new campaigns or your new products or your promotions? And again, go back to how are you executing these local marketing programs, and are you feeding franchisees the information and the tools and the resources that they need to be engaged with what you want them to do and know how to execute it as they move on? So I'm going to come back to this in a minute, but I'm going to talk about customer experience, because we've been tracking some numbers on customer experience since we started this conference 4 years ago. Which one thing that's really important is this is the first year that 100% of our respondents have reported that they do have a customer experience program or process. And I think that's huge because we're all here because we understand the importance of that experience or process. And then the very bottom number in the box, 47% report that multiple departments manage that process. And when we first started collecting this data, that was basically zero. So in 4 years, we've had almost a 50% increase in how the brands are managing their customer experience, which I think is really good. And these numbers grow every year, which is awesome. So we started tracking the metrics, and these numbers have grown over time too, but online reviews are the biggest way. But the brands are using a different variety of tracking abilities, I think I'm gonna say, because not everything is a program, but they're tracking in multiple ways. And then they got different types of tools and platforms that they're using to track all the different methods of information that they're looking for. And you'll have, this presentation will be available in the folder that you can access through the QR code. We still have plenty of cards out there because I see people taking pictures, which is really exciting, but I also wanted to let you know that you can get all this information. Okay, so here's why I want to talk to you for a minute, and then we're going to go back to talk about the local store marketing piece. So 55% of our respondents report that they manage that online reputation management program or process at their corporate headquarters. So 55% of those brands are putting resources toward management of this when they're at corporate headquarters, but those of the same respondents, 48% don't have a program that helps their franchisees manage their local marketing programs. So the question that I would leave you with on this is, if you're brand A, B, or C, do you do that? And what level of allocation of resources in your marketing program does this meet? And I will say that I will also encourage you to visit all of our sponsors in the networking area when we go back there this afternoon, because we have really a library of resources in there of companies represented, everything from people who will help you get your programs together. We just saw 2 great videos on programs and products that can help build your brand awareness, but then generate leads, drive traffic to your locations, manage your customers, learn more about what they think, customer reputation management programs and platforms. And so there's a suite or a library of services available to here for you to talk with. And I think what we would do, and what hit me when I was thinking about this data, is that if you could get a third party to help with part of your marketing program, like an online reputation management process platform provider, could you take your same corporate resources and allocate them into local store marketing and getting your franchisees on the page that you want them to be on so that everybody is driving more revenue? And is that going to be a better expense or a better investment in your people to the point where it could possibly pay for itself, right? Because if you've got your franchisees doing effective local marketing programs, that's going to drive royalties that will help pay for the resources to execute the programs and help ensure that your franchisees are doing what you want them to do. So that's my big aha moment of the day. And then here's the reason why, right? Do you need a third party, or do you need some more help with your online reputation management to help with the challenges? Because when you look at these challenges, these top 2, and 55%, are maintaining consistency and managing negative feedback. So would you be in a better place helping and driving your brand if you engaged with an organization that does this all the time so that you can still go back and allocate your resources without adding people, and then pay for your investment of time and resources. So that's my piece on customer experience and how it kind of relates back to local store marketing, and then how we work together as multiple disciplines to execute on our customer experience. So now we're going to move to, this is really we probably started asking questions about AI 3 years ago, just some basic questions, and in the last 2 years we've gotten a little bit deeper. So I have some interesting things to show you, and they're going to be comparative, where we have data for the last 2 years. So the percent of brands that are leveraging AI is roughly about 60%, no change there, but there are still 40% of brands who haven't engaged. And I think if you flip back to what Steve Brown was telling us yesterday, it's here, it's not going anywhere. We need to be looking at artificial intelligence and how it impacts our brands. And I still remember one of the statements that our keynote speaker, Mike Walsh, said last year is, if you are one of those brands that hasn't engaged, start something, do something. It's time, and we're all going to need to be involved with it. So from there, we asked, what are you using it for in your system? AI, chat box, and it's kind of all over the board, and I think it's all over the board in a good way, right? Brands are looking at how they engage with customers, how do you make your teams more efficient, what's working, what's not working. And confidence in your team's ability to use the AI tool. And I love that 70% are very confident in their team's ability, because that's how we learn. And when you think about failing forward that we talked about earlier today, if your teams are in there doing it, as long as they're getting their jobs done, and maybe they're finding ways to use AI for their jobs, I think that there's a lot of value available. And this slide shows that our leaders are thinking the same. Okay, so overall customer experience. This is interesting too, because this is in different places as well that impact different levels of the organization. Personalization, improved processes, improved guest satisfaction, all good things for us for driving revenue to our brands and helping our franchisees become more profitable. Challenges and limitations. So on this one, and I hope that some of you were able to go to the technology summit yesterday morning, because one of the discussion points was, how are we preparing our brands to advance with technology or implement new technology? And we've got over 50% are saying, 50% of our respondents reported that integrating AI with their existing technology is the biggest challenge. And so I always go back to something that I learned a long time ago in the restaurant industry, which was inspect what you expect. So if you expect that your AI programs are going to integrate into the way that you do business or help you change the way that you do business, it would be advantageous of you to step back and take a look at what your technology stack looks like today, and make sure that you're ready to begin accepting new friends called AI. And then I'm hoping that we're going to see this number, this top bar, change over time. Okay. Interesting fact, 75% of our respondents say that they're planning to invest in AI. A few are not going to, but I think that number I anticipate will change over time, because we've seen a little bit more of a swing when it comes to investment on AI as we go through the survey. And then we asked some questions about franchisee involvement. And the first one is, how do you involve your franchisees in the decision-making process? And it's interesting because we asked our multi-unit franchisee advisory board for that conference how much they wanted to be involved. And the majority of the franchisees said, you know what, I'd like to be involved at a high level. I look to my franchisor to do the testing, to learn, and to bring some ideas to me. So this, I think, kind of would follow the expectation that most franchisees, there's always going to be a group of franchisees who are very technology savvy and they're going to be a little bit more involved, but I think in the overall landscape of franchisees, this is what you're going to see. Same thing here with training and support. Brands aren't quite training franchisees yet, and I suspect that that's because they haven't found the right AI investment or program or process to support their franchisee community the way that they would like. And then we're looking at different means of measurement on AI tracking and customer feedback. It's in the early stages. Some are, some aren't. And I think, you know, we'll get smarter and more, let's see, what's the best word? We'll get a little bit more proficient in how we track our customer data as we get a little more proficient and educated on the programs and processes that we're going to use. And so now we have a couple new slides, and I love this slide because it looks at 75% says my organization is open to new ideas and technologies, but also lack financial resources to invest in AI. So I think that's something that we all need to consider as we get to the point where we're looking at budgeting for the coming year. What do we want our end product to be, and what do we need to do to get there? And then this I think was really interesting too, and talking about I need to upskill or reskill myself. Yes, me. But 70% said that they were going to be ready to do that, and they felt like they needed a little bit more help. So this concludes, Teams adoption. I missed one slide. Nobody's at high adoption yet, but we're medium or low. So we're kind of in the middle, and that I anticipate will grow over time too.